A good Friday afternoon to you. I'm Julie Grant, and this is your daily sidebar. Thank you so much for being with us today. I have my colleagues joining me from afar. We're all doing what we can to practice social distancing, to do our part in preventing the further spread of COVID-19. And I want to say thank you to all of you at home for joining in this Facebook Live. Please share your comments with us. Put them in the comment section, and we'll do our best to answer your questions you have and react to your comments as well. So I've got Seema Iyer, Vinnie Politan, Ted Rowlands all standing by here with me. And first up today in your legal news, parents who are entrenched in the college bribery scandal are making some renewing pleas to the judge to drop the charges, accusing prosecutors of extraordinary misconduct. Defense attorneys for Full House actress Lori Loughlin and her fashion designer husband and some other parents say that the case cannot go on because investigators bullied their informant into lying and then withheld evidence supporting the parents' claims of innocence. Now, the evidence defense attorneys are referring to specifically are notes from the phone of the scheme's admitted mastermind, admissions consultant Rick Singer. You may recall hearing about this. We talked about it on your daily sidebar once before. You see, Singer wrote some notes on his iPhone saying that FBI agents were yelling at him and telling him to lie to parents about where their donations were going and to try to get parents to say things in recorded phone calls that could then be used against them in prosecutions. The defense also accused investigators of allowing Singer to delete thousands of text messages from his cell phone and then mounting, quote, an aggressive and highly successful pressure campaign to get parents to plead guilty. Now, the notes from Singer's phone were not turned over to the defense. They were not turned over in discovery by the government until last month, which defense attorneys argue is a discovery violation. But federal prosecutors say that they believe the notes were privileged. Additionally, the federal prosecutors claim that at the time, it didn't matter whether Singer called the payments bribes or donations because it was still an illegal quid pro quo. All right, I want to bring in my colleagues now. Vinnie Politan, I want to go to you first, please. You've had a lot to say about this case since its inception. What do you think about this recent news?
I think this is a big problem for federal prosecutors in this case, and not necessarily in front of the judge. I don't foresee any judge throwing out any charges. The judge may limit the use of some evidence, but at the end of the day, you start putting this kind of evidence in front of a jury, it could be a real problem for them because you've got the ringleader. Your informant is the ringleader. I mean, your informant is the one who's making this whole thing happen for years and years. He's the one making all the money off of this. That's the informant, or is that the kingpin, right? That's number one. Number two, the fact that he is now having to change what he's saying to parents in order to appease the FBI investigators who are trying to get all these parents to say incriminating things. That's a problem. It's a real problem. And here's what federal prosecutors are going against. They're going against fully funded defendants, which they don't normally do. These are fully funded defendants. I mean, you're talking about Lori Loughlin's husband is worth, I believe, hundreds of millions of dollars. So they'll be able to have a fair fight in court.
Right. Great thoughts, Vinnie. And before I get to Seema and Ted, I want to read a comment from Amy Bartlett Lavender. Amy, thank you so much for this comment. Amy says, Mommy thinks kids too stupid to get into good universities, so she buys a place. Trifling is the best word I've ever heard for these fools. Yes, Amy, go ahead with those thoughts. Seema Iyer, you go ahead next. What do you think?
Definitely applause to Amy this afternoon. Okay, so I'm still stuck on this. Federal prosecutors say they believe the notes were privileged. I just want to point out that prosecutors do this all the time. Whether it's state prosecutors or feds, they decide what is relevant. They decide what is discoverable. They decide what is privileged. No, that is not how this is supposed to work. If you have a question whether something is discoverable or privileged, you know what? You ask the judge for an in-camera inspection. Give it to the gatekeeper. You don't get to decide on your own. And I hate when prosecutors pull this.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that, Seema. This is exculpatory evidence on his item to me. Ted Rowlands, what do you think? I mean, the way he's presenting this to the people he's talking to in the cooperation seems to me to be pretty critical to what they might have known. It goes to the intent element for defendants like Lori Loughlin, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess. Yes, it does. But I'm not losing sleep over them at all. Are you kidding me? They had their daughter get on a rowing machine and take photos of her and then pretend like she was a big time rower to go to USC. They didn't understand what was going on. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. Right. The jury decide how exculpatory this is. There's no way the judge should throw this out.
Yeah, no, I would. It needs to. I think it needs to come in. I think the prosecutor turned it over sooner. I mean, he's their witness. Prosecutors, you picked Rick Singer to be your guy, the biggest, the kingpin, the mastermind, the guy who was plotting and planning, and then sung like a canary as soon as he was in federal trouble. So, I think that should have been turned over, and then it's an issue for the jury to decide how much weight do we want to give the notes he made to himself privately on his iPhone, contemporaneous with this discussion with the feds, and how he, I guess, related the conversation to these parents, whether it was related in such a way like you're bribing the system or you are making a kind donation out of the goodness of your heart. Okay, we have another comment. We have one from Sandra Downing. I want to read. Sandra, thank you for following along. Sandra says, I always thought it was the fault of the administration. Yeah, these college administrators, really, we've mentioned this before. And Sandra, I appreciate your comment. The victims are really those children who are at home and not able to attend whatever university they wanted to attend because spots are being taken up by other individuals whose kids paid their way in because of the parents' conduct. Any thoughts on Sandra's comments?
Oh, absolutely. A great comment by Sandra. And, someone's got to hold the schools responsible here as well. And I think they'll be the ones that are on trial if this goes to trial in the fall or next winter, whenever the cases ultimately get heard in federal court. The schools, you're not keeping track of who you're letting in, who you're not letting in. And are the schools actually, before this was uncovered, turning a blind eye to all of it? Because guess who gets in? Kids who are paying full freight, kids who don't need any financial assistance, kids who don't need any level of scholarship. These are kids that, they're paying that extra money to this Rick Singer character, right? Hundreds of thousands to him. Plus, on top of that, they're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to the schools to keep the kids in there. So I really think this will uncover a lot that's going on in our schools, and shame on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Shame on all of them involved in this. And I can't blame Lori Loughlin's attorneys for trying to go ahead and keep motioning for a dismissal for this. That's good lawyering, right? Seema, if you're on the defense side and you have a client like this,
well, I think if I have a client like that, first thing I would instruct her is like, hey, when you get off the plane in Boston, don't sign autographs. Don't take selfies. This isn't the red carpet. This isn't a runway. And then you guys remember this. I know you remember this. When that court appearance, and this was many months ago, maybe even a year ago at this point, she, in the courtroom, walks over to the prosecution's table and says, hey, and then shakes their hand. You don't shake the hand of the opposite side. You are the client. Shh. Flip it.
Yeah. No, good advice. Good advice, Attorney Iyer. Ted Rollins, want you to weigh in on that. What do you think of some of the conduct there in front of the cameras?
Oh, well, she's a fish out of water, doesn't know what's going on. And again, her attorney should have instructed her. I wish this was not in federal court so that we could have it on court TV.
Oh, yeah.
We need the cameras in there because Vinny's right. It's the universities that are going to be on trial, the defendants, and the informant. In fact, you could argue, and I know Vinny believes this, that Singer should be the guy in the defendant's chair, and Lori Loughlin should be coming in with Felicity Huffman and the others as witnesses to fry him because he is the mastermind. They went about it a different way, but when it's all told, all of them are getting shamed, and hopefully all the universities that are doing this have stopped it because of all of the publicity.
Yes, very well said. Very well said, Ted. Perfect note to end that discussion on there and switch gears. So we know the rush to flatten out the curve of the coronavirus pandemic is changing the lives for all of us. And one of the most vulnerable populations are inmates, who are housed in America's jails and prisons. And some legal advocates and medical professionals are saying that it's nearly impossible to exercise precautions while behind bars. Now, this is leading to a flurry of filings from attorneys on behalf of their celebrity clients. On Thursday, R&B singer R. Kelly cited the novel coronavirus in asking a federal judge to free him from federal jail in Chicago. The filing says that Kelly's age, coupled with his health issues and the conditions at the facility where he is staying, necessitates his release on bail. Now, although the filing doesn't go into detail about Kelly's supposed health issues, it does claim that Kelly falls into the category of people described as high risk by the Centers for Disease Control. Now, President Trump's former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, and rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine also cited the coronavirus threat as grounds for their release as well. So we're seeing this trend. I want to bring in my colleagues now, Seema, Vinny, and Ted, to weigh in. Let's talk about R. Kelly first, if we can, please, because we know there were just more charges brought against him in the past couple of days. Vinny, you want to start us off?
Yeah, the big challenge that R. Kelly is going to have is he's got to convince judges, not just one judge, to release him, but judges. And the amazing part of that story is what they are saying he will do. He's going to go live with his girlfriend, right? So he has a girlfriend, number one. Number two, he's going to live and he'll remain confined in that apartment with his girlfriend with his monitoring device. But again, it's going to be judges in Illinois and New York who both have to agree to all of this, if in fact they do. So we'll see. I'm going to be talking with Steve Greenberg, his attorney, later today, and we'll get that. We'll post that on courttv.com for everyone. But it'll be interesting to see what judges start doing with all these motions that are going to be filed.
But hold on a second. He can't. Okay. So first of all, none of us people out who aren't in jail are not supposed to be going to visit our friends, right? We're all in isolation or quarantine, whatever the word is. That's number one. Number two is you're telling me that R. Kelly, who is in jail and possibly surrounded by people who have a coronavirus, is now going to go to his girlfriend's house. So he, it could be transmitting something. She could have something, putting her in danger. And Vinny, don't be surprised that R. Kelly has a girlfriend, because if Harvey Weinstein has a girlfriend, of course R. Kelly has a girlfriend. Please.
Wait,
who's Harvey Weinstein's girlfriend?
This is news to me.
Oh, I can't. He has a girlfriend.
He has a girlfriend?
Harvey?
Yes.
My sources tell me that Harvey Weinstein has a very nice girlfriend who tried to see him on his birthday, but couldn't because of the coronavirus. His birthday was just last week. I think Vinny celebrated on his show. Didn't you, Vin?
No.
You brought a cake out and everything.
I did not. That was Ted.
Yeah, you did. Oh, that was Ted's show. Sorry. Whoops. There you go.
Yes.
So Ted, you remember at the birthday party that we had for Harvey Weinstein? So that day.
Oh, was that what it was for? I just thought we were having
right,
cake.
exactly.
Right.
So that day, the girlfriend tried to visit. So my point is, you all know this. You see this, whether it's the Menendez brothers getting married in prison, there is always somebody for somebody.
Yeah, this is something. Woo. Okay, so that's the news there.
Sorry,
no
tangent.
Right. Hey, no, it's all good. The discussion is going where it will, and we have a great comment I want to read before I want to bring you and Ted to weigh in on this. So Danielle Broussard says, well, if R. Kelly gets to leave prison for being high risk, then other inmates should too. But I would be worried about crime rates going up. I'm certainly with you, Danielle. Thank you for that comment. I don't think there's a chance R. Kelly would be released. I think he is way too much of a flight risk, number one, with all the means and the money that he has to potentially, skip town. Number two, judges always have to weigh in the public safety in terms of their thinking and the factors they consider and whether to give a defendant like him who's being held, a bond, and whether to adjust that. And I just think that the safety of the accusers, if you're on the side of the prosecution, you can make the argument that they're at risk because a lot of what's being alleged here is that he was exerting power and control over these women in various horrific fashions. And I think if you're on the side of the state, you can say, so what's stopping him from getting out? And while he's got his ankle monitor on at his house, from trying to reach out to these women or inviting them over or leaving the house, going to see them. I think it's way too risky. Ted, give me your thoughts on R. Kelly. What do you think about him?
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I mean, talk about a potential virus spreader. I mean, this is probably the last guy we want to allow. But I think it's a larger question that needs to be asked, however. And that is, what about the older prisoners? Is there an area? I mean, I think every prison, jail needs to come up with a solution to put people in that are positive or that are showing signs of it and isolate them, but to open the doors to all nonviolent criminals, which some people are saying we should do, absolutely ridiculous.
Right, I'm with you. I know it's so funny. No, you're keeping it real, Ted Rollins. Keeping it real.
Virus spreader? That's like a new hashtag, Ted.
Well, you know, speaking of virus spreading, this is the perfect transition to a soundbite we have from Dr. Robert Cohen. He's from the New York City Board of Correction. He's talking about the unique risk factors that are facing prisoners. Let's take a look.
What is a critical issue is that there are many people in the jails and prisons of this country who are older, who are over 50. And I know that for the population over 50 in New York City's jails, they are much sicker than the 50-year-old that play singles. They have 5 or 6 medical problems each.
All right. So certainly a concern. And this is a great segue to a comment from another viewer. We have comment and a question here from Rosemary Romero, which is, you know, great thinking here. And I think we can all kind of go around the horn and address it. She says, what are prisoners' civil rights under the coronavirus shutdown? Do they have to stay in prison? I think the short answer, Rosemary, is that yes, which is a good thing for all of us. I mean, you know, COVID-19 doesn't change that in terms of somebody losing their freedom when they're being held awaiting trial or having been sentenced and serving a punishment. There have to be those extraordinary, compelling reasons for the release, right? If somebody's really high risk for something to be modified in terms of a sentence. We saw that with the college bribery scandal. One of the individuals, one of the defendants, a California winemaker, was freed just slightly early. His sentence was only 5 months, but he was let out 2 weeks before the end of his term because of his unique health circumstances that were extraordinary, compelling reasons to have him serve the rest of his sentence at home. But keep in mind, he's not a violent offender.
Yeah.
This is a guy who opened up his wallet and did something, you know, a paper crime he should not have committed. So,
Julie, I actually have represented some prisoners in these civil rights type of actions, and people know them as 1983 actions because that's the statute, right? So prisoners have rights, in essence, to not be harmed, right? You know, like corrections officers can't beat them up. They can't be starved.
Right.
You know, those type of extreme measures. But they have to say, I mean, they are sentenced. So the obligation of the corrections department is to keep them safe. So how do they keep them safe in a coronavirus? Let's say another cellmate or someone else in the general area is test positive, or there's the word that someone has coronavirus. What they may have to do is start isolating prisoners. And that could create a problem because they may not have enough solitary units to place these prisoners. So the obligation for the prison is to keep them safe and to not harm them.
Right. No, I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and some people, it's funny. We've talked about this before. Sometimes defendants in criminal cases, I've had this happen as a prosecutor. They have a facility, you know, they've been through the system and where they want to go because the treatment's better, you know, the food's better, the conditions are better. So sometimes I've had defendants on that borderline where they could have done a jail sentence or a prison sentence. They were right on the border, and I would offer them jail to entice them to take the plea agreement because I thought it was appropriate, and they would send me upstate because I don't want to go to one of those facilities. So I'm glad you made that point about the treatment.
It's much like Scott Nelson.
Oh,
Remember Scott Nelson? That was that whole trial was all about him shopping for a place to spend the rest of his life, whether it was federal prison, state prison, whatever it was. So, Julie, I think you're right on with that. I think there's a lot of career criminals that kind of are in that mode and know where they want to be. And for Scott Nelson, I mean, in his case, he wanted to be there instead of being a free person, which was amazing.
Yeah,
but I also think I also think that sometimes prisoners want to be somewhere where their family can visit them. I mean, this is something that I've dealt with a lot, is that prisoners, they just keep fighting for a place that is that's easier for their family. Like, for instance, and this is where, and we talk about this a lot, how money often buys you access. Vinny, you've spoken about this. With Harvey Weinstein, he had a prison consultant. And the prison consultant drafted this report for the judge and had like a top 5 list. Like, these are the top 5 best places where Harvey Weinstein wants to spend 23 years. And he didn't get any of them, but he tried.
Yeah.
I think, Seema, you bring up a good point, bringing up being close to family. This crisis, I actually talked to somebody who has an ex-husband in California prison right now, who's very concerned. We think a lot of times, like, oh, prisoners, they're not even human to some people. They're absolutely human. They have families, and loved ones right now are very concerned about the health and welfare of their loved ones who are incarcerated, because it is a petri dish, a lot of these facilities.
Yes, great transition to another clip we have. Ted, thank you for that. This is from Emily Galvin Almanza. She's from the Justice Collaborative, and she's talking about how there is no access to soap and adequate sanitation in some facilities. Let's take a look.
There's no access to hand sanitizer, which is actually considered contraband at most facilities. And in many places, there's not even access to soap. I've been hearing from people inside prisons and jails who talk about going to the bathroom where there's, 8 sinks shared by 50 people. Normally each sink has a bar of soap that's also shared with 50 other people. And now even the bars of soap are gone.
All right, that's concerning, certainly very sad. And to go back to your point, I mean, you're absolutely right, Ted. I mean, there are basic rights that prisoners are entitled to, and you can see loved ones on the outside probably panicking for their safety in there. But it also kind of raises the question of, well, is the risk any better on the outside? I mean, all of us are fearful, all of us. I mean, no matter where we go. I mean, this is something that can be easily transmitted when you go to the grocery store to get your weekly groceries. So who knows if the risk is even greater in these facilities. And we don't know which one in particular she was talking about. So we shouldn't paint with broad brushstrokes like this is every place and a problem everywhere.
Yeah, I think the only place that we know now for certain is the riskiest place to be is a hospital, right? Yeah, a hospital filled with people who have coronavirus. So the more exposure, the more likely you are to get it. So, a hospital compared to going to the grocery store, right? The grocery store is a lot less riskier. But Julie, you are right. We don't know. We do not know. But there are places. So until we know whether a prison has a significant population of people with coronavirus, we definitely cannot make that judgment. You're right.
Right. And we have another comment. This is a great point made by Roxana Labershimmer. Roxana, thank you for watching and following along. She says, shouldn't the inmates be the safest since they haven't been in public? Unless, of course, it's a recent inmate. That's a great point, too. Yeah.
That's the problem.
People coming in and out. You've got a lot of things that they're doing are testing the new inmates, but it does it get picked up? I mean, will they pick it up for every inmate that comes in? I think the big problem is that you have people coming in and out. They've cut out visitation in most places, so you don't have that, but you still have lawyers coming in. And then don't forget about the people who have to work there. They're coming in and out each day. And, it doesn't take much to infect a population that is in such close quarters and has many shared things like toilets and sinks.
Yes.
So I think that's part of the problem. I mean, it's all about social distancing, and I don't know how much distance you can get in a prison. That's the real problem.
Yeah, excellent points. Vinny and, Ted and Seema, quick final thoughts here, and then I have one more viewer comment I'm going to grab here and pull up. Anything else you want to say about the sanitation and whatnot in this issue we're facing with prisons? No easy.
I agree with Seema. I
Ted?
think it's a wait and see. Unless there's a huge outbreak in an institution, I think every facility, and I'm sure they are dealing with it appropriately. You have to believe in the system in times like this, that you have to believe the warden is at work in each facility around the country, trying to make things as good as possible.
Yes. And Seema, quick final thoughts.
My final thoughts are, I hope everybody has a safe weekend. It's Friday, so we're not going to see you guys till Monday. So have a safe weekend. And, Court TV is still on, still happening. We've got the Kellen Winslow trial. We've got round-the-clock coverage. Binge watch us on your Court TV on-demand app, television. And we are with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a really cute comment we can end on from viewer Pauletta Larry Cleckley. Thank you, Pauletta. She says, "Happy Friday from the 13th Jurors Club." So I know I speak for you and Ted when I say thank you for that. And we miss you all. And we love interacting with you here on the Daily Sidebar. So we will do it again. And many thanks to Seema, Vinny, and Ted for weighing in remotely on this and helping us bring you your sidebar from our homes. And what I want to say is before we go, Court TV, we're committed to bringing you your front row seat to justice, especially now through the coronavirus pandemic. And we are playing some very special encore programming for you on the NFL star rape trial. It's happening right now. If you haven't seen it yet, you can tune in right now today. In the Kellen Winslow II trial, the state is calling the final witnesses in their case in chief, including a friend of Jane Doe number 4, who was there the night of the assault. And then it's the defense's turn. Winslow's defense calls a law enforcement officer witness who will be testifying about inconsistencies in Jane Doe number 4's account of the rape. Now, we want to say thank you so much for joining us for your Daily Sidebar. We will see you again on Monday, same time, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and same place here on Court TV Live's Facebook page. Have a great weekend. Stay healthy and well.